Palafin has been unbanned from Gen 9 temporarily. This is something they have been talking about for a while, and they actually did it close to Christmas as well. What a wonderful gift. So right now, as we speak, you can use Palafin again in OU. It's perfectly legal right now. But they are retesting it. So there's going to be a suspect vote happening to determine whether Palafin gets to stay or not. So we're allowing it for a brief period. And if it's broken again, we'll just ban it again. But general sentiment is that Palafin is not quite what it once was, and there's a few reasons for that. Maybe enough has changed that Palafin could be a healthy addition now, and an interesting new addition. But first, a quick reminder, folks, that the Horse Council merchandise is only available for 7 more days and will be gone at the end of December. You know what to do. JimothyCool.com. Thank you. Palafin was one of the first things banned from Gen 9 OU in the early days. This thing was absolutely broken in the early metagame. Palafin is unimpressive stats-wise in its base form, but it has the ability 0 to hero. Simply switching out and back in turns Palafin into this Palafin hero form, which has incredible stats. Most notably the base 160 attack, but even everything else is very solid. Pretty high base speed, good bulk, and mono water typing is great. And Palafin also gets the move Jet Punch, which is a 60 power priority water type attack. Very, very strong priority move. Above average power for a priority move that really hits hard. And this set was the big one back in the day. Bulk up, Drain Punch, Jet Punch, Taunt. This would break through just about everything. And with Terrestrialization, you could even power through things that are supposed to check water types. Drain Punch means that you heal forever, and Taunt means you can't get Whirlwinded out or Roared out or whatever. And Jet Punch, with priority on it, just hits so hard off your massive attack. But would this be broken today? Today's metagame looks very different. When Gen 9 first came out, there was way less in the game, and Palafin was absolutely destroying everything. There was little to check it, but now we have some new faces that could give Palafin a run for its money. What about Ogerpon Wellspring? This thing has a water grass typing and water absorb for complete immunity to water type attacks. It also outruns Palafin, hits it with a big grass stab move, and overall is probably the biggest thing in the metagame right now that would keep Palafin in check. The mere presence of Ogerpon Wellspring means that Palafin wouldn't be anywhere near as good as it was back in the day, because something so common really shuts it down. I mean, Palafin, like anything, can use Terra Blast or something to get through it, but that's a lot to ask. That is a lot to ask. That's a big commitment, and once you've spent all that, you're going to limit your future options, aren't you? Palafin also is kind of having struggles against Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt is another new face, a very bulky electric dragon type special attacker that resists water and also has an electric type priority move, Thunderclap, which will beat out Jet Punch in the priority. And Jet Punch isn't even doing much damage to Raging Bolt in the first place, but if it wants to, it's not going to be very successful. A Raging Bolt is going to be a pretty effective check to Palafin hero, I imagine. We also have Zamazenta in the format now, who also got unbanned and is kind of a blanket physical check to various things, because as it comes in, it gets its defense boost +1. And with such high base defense and body press to dish out respectable damage, Palafin hero probably can't break through teams super instantly, because there's already 2 really common things checking it, and then Zamazenta puts a stop to its sweep in that sense as well. Palafin hero does have Zen Headbutt to hit Zamazenta, but honestly, Zamazenta could probably outbulk even that. And I mean, beyond that, you also have Rillaboom, who is probably a good half check to Palafin that threatens it with big grass stab, at least forcing it to Terra, probably really halting its momentum. You also have Zapdos in the format. I mean, Palafin can threaten Zapdos very well, but Zapdos is bulky, it has the static chance, and of course it's an electric type. Remember, when Palafin was running rampant, there weren't that many good electric and grass types in the format, but now that's changed. It's also worth noting that Kyurem exists. Kyurem is still legal, and Kyurem resists water and has freeze dry for super effective ice damage on Palafin. There's also even Alamamola now, who is a water resist, a very bulky pivot, and isn't as frightened of Taunt, because it can flip turn out to something that threatens Palafin, or just fish for Scald Burns against it. Palafin probably doesn't want to risk if it's going for a sweep. So maybe Palafin could power through Alamamola, but they could just use it to pivot out. It's not really worried about Taunt. So that's another thing giving Palafin some problems now. So even though Palafin is still probably going to be really good, I mean, its stats are very powerful for the format. It's very easy to activate 0 to hero in singles especially. It's not that hard to just switch out Palafin and give it these legendary level stats. But honestly, that's a lot of stuff that can check Palafin now. And arguably, there are other threats in the format that are a little bit more difficult to answer than Palafin will be. I spoke with Pinkacross yesterday for our Gen 9 VR breakdown, and I brought up Palafin right at the end to ask Pinkacross what he thinks about Palafin. He had the initial impression that it would be broken again for all the same reasons, but upon testing it out, found that all this new stuff in the format that is able to put a stop to Palafin, you know, running away with games with the bulk up set, powering through its checks like it used to be able to, and, you know, the overwhelming level of power on the choice band set are just simply not what they once were. Maybe Palafin will actually serve to have a positive impact as a new, bulky, water-type physical threat. That could be a new reason to run Rain teams, which feel terrible right now. Rain is in a very bad place mostly because of Ogerpon Wellspring, who really shuts down Rain and is so common and effective against Rain. Maybe Palafin can help there, at least as a powerful attacker to run on Rain. I mean, it also gets stopped by Ogerpon Wellspring, but it is still a reason to run Rain. And this could also be another good tool against King Gambit, the #1 Pokemon in the format, an infamously frightening Pokemon that can sweep entire teams. Palafin Hero is really bulky. It has Drain Punch, and even Jet Punch to out-prio Sucker Punch and make it fail. And Palafin also resists Steel, so that's quite nice. And Jet Punch is a strong priority option that will really help out against hyper-offense strategies. Think of the fast frail threats used on such teams like Iron Valiant, maybe even Roaring Moon after it uses Terra Flying will be vulnerable to a big Jet Punch. Deoxys Speed might get eliminated by Jet Punches. You'll certainly be effective against Iron Moth. You're at least going to force them to Terra, because you're probably threatened to one-shot Iron Moth. And maybe Palafin is actually capable of breaking through Gliscor. Gliscor is a really, really strong and difficult Pokemon to deal with right now, with many possible ways to use it in terms of all its Terra types, offensive and defensive sets, different utility you can mix and match. But Palafin can taunt it, it hits it with super effective stab, and it can ramp up with bulk up, so Palafin Hero probably punishes Gliscor pretty well. Even the Terra Normal Facade sets will be putting themselves in danger against Drain Punch, and Palafin can probably 1v1 those too. And another Pokemon I forgot to mention that is also probably going to be a really good check to Palafin is Primarina. Primarina has been a fantastic addition to the format, the go-to bulky water fairy type, with a few different sets you can run, pivoting with Flip Turn, Assault Vest, Carmine Sweeper sets, and perfect typing to stop Palafin in its tracks with water and fighting resistance. And I'm not even sure if Palafin gets coverage to hit Primarina. It does not. I've just checked. Palafin does not get any poison, electric, or grass type attacks to hit Primarina with, so Primarina will be a fantastic check to Palafin. Overall, my feeling on this is that Palafin will probably be fine. There's a chance, I mean, it is very powerful on the stats side. It is a great Terra abuser as well, and it can ramp very quickly and snowball. But there's just so many things that check it effectively now, and I'm not even sure if hyper offense teams would want to run this that badly. There are more immediately threatening Pokemon like the Paradox Pokemon, other boost sweepers. Palafin probably would be more of a slow-paced win condition, or maybe a rain abuser. Choice Band Palafin is good, but it's very punishing to lock into certain things, and that would be kind of a momentum sink for very aggressive teams. And the bulk up set is pretty slow-paced for this metagame, and I don't think HO would even really want that. Pinkacross made a good point in our video together and said that Palafin was really punishing to balance builds back in the day, but balance isn't feeling like the strongest strategy at the moment in Gen 9 because Pokemon like Ogerpon, Wellspring, and Kyurem and some of the top threats really punish balance at the moment. So Palafin is very effective against a style that isn't really in favor right now. I'm not sure what style Palafin is really going to be used on. Maybe Palafin could be a reason to run balance because it's a bulky threat that is interesting to build around as a win con. I'm excited to see how people start using Palafin. I'm glad to have it back now. I once hated this Pokemon, but things are different, and maybe now's the time. And I honestly support them doing this in the future. Metagames change a lot. There are early bans that don't really apply later. And I mean, they unbanned various Pokemon. They've unbanned Chien Pao a couple times and retested that. It's always worth retesting stuff and seeing if it'll be good. And even the unbans like the Zamazenta unban was cool this gen. So I support them unbanning stuff and retesting stuff. There's no reason not to in my mind. Why not do it? And this was a great choice. Excited to see how Palafin develops and how people choose to use it, and what role it will find for itself in this all-new Gen 9 that looks very different to when it was on top of the world. And taking a quick look at Palafin's moveset, there are some interesting options here. It's actually quite limited. It doesn't have very good coverage for the meta. It would really love like a poison type attack or a grass type attack, but it simply doesn't have such things. Flip turn is great, but it's tough to click against Ogerpon Wellspring. Encore might be a good call as a utility option. It's been a great choice in this format to punish Sucker Punch and stuff. You might even be able to punish Raging Bolt clicking Thunderclap with Encore. That could be a cool counterplay to that. Maybe Ice Punch to hit Raging Bolt. Maybe Surprise Outrage. Could that be something? And something I was looking at is also it gets a Giga Impact. I'm wondering, could you maybe lure in Wellspring and hit it with Giga Impact or some other checks? Probably not. That's probably way too dangerous, but it could be an interesting lure like the Katana thing back in Gen 7. Terra Normal Giga Impact. That's probably stupid. I do wonder, is there anything else here that's noteworthy? Not really. A fairly limited moveset, but still some interesting stuff like Iron Head. Does that hit anything relevant? Maybe Clefable, if you want to hit Clefable. I don't know how important that is. Haze, are we looking at utility Palafin? I'm doubtful. You could do counter against Ogerpon Wellspring and catch them clicking Grass Move. That could be something. That could be good. And actually, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but Acrobatics hits Ogerpon Wellspring. You could just run a berry on this or something, Citrus Berry. They hit you, you heal, hit him with the big Acrobatics. That's decent. What do you think? Are you happy that Palafin's back? Do you support this one? Or do you think it's going to be broken again in the same way? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.